Hello and welcome to episode 291 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is October 6th, 2025. Today I'm wearing two pieces that aren't very old but not very new either. And the shawl is another Stephen West shawl, but this was not a mystery knit along, but just a normal pattern. But I bought the pattern as part of an ebook where I bought the whole ebook, but so far I've only knit this one shawl. The ebook is, I think, called something about color. It's not painting colors, or is it? I don't remember. But the shawl is called Fragmentation shawl. And the idea in the pattern is that you use, I think, 7 different colors. And then you start with one of the colors here. You do the little tiny half circle. And then all these stripes are knit one after the other. And what you're supposed to do is use your 7 colors one after the other. And then you would end up with stripes that are the same width, then the same number of rows. And then when you start the second stripe, you start with a different color. So the colors are always offset the way I have done it. But instead of using 7 colors, I just used an Opal yarn that made those stripes within the yarn. And the only thing I had to take care of is that I started every wedge of the shawl with a different color, and then the colors would automatically be offset. But because I'm using the same yarn, the stripes get thinner and thinner because I'm increasing the number of stitches. So in the beginning, I have only a few stitches and I have fairly wide blocks of color. And then as the shawl grows in size and I increase the number of stitches, the smaller the stripes become. And then here they're really, really small, but they're still stripes. So that was quite nice. And I really enjoyed doing that. It sounds like a lot of work having to knit all these wedges, but that's a typical Stephen West thing. I think it's even more work if you have to cut your yarn after so many rows all the time and have to juggle all the 7 colors. So it was a lot easier with the one ball of yarn and then just make sure to start at the same point in the color repeat. And then you knit every wedge onto the existing wedge, so there's no sewing to be done afterwards. And it's like almost like a half circle, but it's a little more than a half circle. So the edges aren't straight and they don't tend to fall off my shoulders, but they come forward really nicely. And I really enjoy wearing this. And today I'm wearing it with this pullover that I did not knit. It was knit by a friend of mine, and she didn't knit it for me, but she knit it for her son. And her son grew out of it. He's really tall by now. And so I got the pullover once he couldn't wear it anymore. And the pattern that my friend used is the Raglano by Nicolor, which is a free pattern, and it's a really good pattern for your first raglan pullover because it's very easy to do. And the only thing that I would recommend to do differently is, and that's part of the reason that I have the pullover now, is my friend followed the pattern which tells you to first knit the yoke, then you knit the back and front, then you knit the sleeves, and then you do the ribbing in the neckline. And the problem with that is that if you're not really experienced as a pullover knitter, what can happen is if you measure your arms and also the front and back and maybe even the yoke without the neckband ribbing, it can seem like the arms are already long enough when they're actually still too short. So that's what happened to my friend. She finished the sleeves and then she put in the ribbing for the neckline, and the ribbing pulled everything slightly up and suddenly the sleeves were too short. So she was quite frustrated because it took her a long time to knit the pullover. And so she asked me what she could do to, she wanted longer sleeves, but she didn't want to just knit more ribbing because then there would have been too much of that color. So I told her the easiest thing to do is just leave the pullover with me And I undid the ribbing. I knit the number of centimeters that she needed for the sleeve to be long enough. And then I re-knit the ribbing. And because I'm curious, I just tried the pullover on and I realized it fitted me perfectly. So, well, maybe not perfectly. It's a bit tighter than I usually knit my pullovers, but it's not too tight. And so I said, if she doesn't need it after her son stops wearing it, I'd be really happy to have it. And so she gave it to me. And the yarn is by Opal, and it's one of the colors of the Black Dragon series. So the Black Dragon colorways by Opal, they have this black yarn running alongside one of the colors. And of course, this was my favorite color in that series because of the blue and turquoise colors. But it was such a popular color that I sold everything before I could knit anything for myself. And so now I have a pullover in that color and I didn't even have to knit it. So that was good. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing today. Then on to my one finished object. And that's one of the pairs of socks I was knitting, and it's the August knit along that I did on this channel with where we were knitting socks with beads in them. So I did a tutorial video on how to put beads into your knitting. And for the cast on, I showed how to use beads that you string onto the yarn beforehand. And then for the other beads in the leg of the sock, I showed how to place them with a crochet hook or with some dental floss. And for the first sock, I wanted to put them in a circle. I wanted to put the beads sort of in a circle, but it turned out to look more like a square. So I wasn't really too happy with that, but I wasn't going to undo it. So for the second sock, I came up with a different pattern that used the same number of beads and the same number of rounds. But I think it actually looks a lot better if you have a bit of space in between your beads and you don't have them too tightly together. I was a bit worried if I knit the leg like this, that the beads would be so heavy that the sock would look something like this. So I decided to turn everything around after I put in the beads. I knit some ribbing next, so that will be snug to the leg. And then I folded it down so that the beads sort of rest on the foot and they can't really go any lower than this. And the yarn I used is by 100 Farbspiele, and it's called their vegan sock yarn because there's no wool in the yarn. It's a mix of cotton and acrylic and something else that's made out of plants, but it's a man-made fiber. So could be modal, I'm not quite sure right now. I'm really looking forward to wearing these socks and washing these socks to see how they hold up, whether they keep their shape or not. So I'll be wearing these very soon, but not showing on the video. I usually don't show the socks I wear. I usually wear knitted socks, but I never show them, so that's okay. Except for sometimes the knee-high socks. I sometimes show those on the video. That's the only finished object I have today, even though I have 3 new cast-ons, but I explained about that last week. There were 3 mystery knit-alongs that all started last week. One of them started on the 1st of October, one on the 2nd, and one on the 3rd. But I'll get to those in a minute. Before I show you any of these, I did not knit on the socks that I'm knitting as my sock couple this year, but I continued knitting on the soft green socks that I am knitting for a friend of a friend. Didn't really work on that as much as I wanted to, but I have a heel done. So this is the leg of the sock. It's a very simple pattern because I would like to finish these socks as quickly as possible, so I didn't want anything complicated. I just knitted 2x2 rib. And now I'm alternating 2 rounds of knit stitches with 2 rounds of knit 2 purl 2. I'm doing a very simple short row heel. I'm exactly at the middle of the heel, and I hope I can knit more on them this week, despite all the mystery knit-alongs. And now I'll show you the first, I could start with the first, so that's a good idea. So now I'll start with the little one and then I'll go to the bigger ones. So the smallest of the knit-alongs is the Mystery Gnome by Sarah Shearer. So for one, we have another year of gnomes this year. So I'm trying to knit a gnome every month. And this month she released a new mystery gnome knit-along. But one of the special things about this mystery knit-along is that you have the choice between two gnomes. You can either do Gnettle or you can do Gnupkin. And of course, I want to do both. And I'll first show you the yarn that I chose for both of them. And then I haven't finished the clue yet, but I'll show you how far I am in a minute. The clues for the gnome come out. The first one came out on the 3rd. The next one will be on the 7th, then the 10th, and then 13th, 17th, and 20th of October, so that we have a chance of finishing the gnome within the month, so that we can enter for her, I think for some prizes, if you knit a gnome a month, any month you do that, you can take part in that. Anyway, so for Gnupkin, I decided to use a pumpkin colored yarn, and I think I got something mixed up here. I think like this, yeah. So for Gnupkin, I chose this as my pumpkin color. I chose this as my color 2, and this is my color 3. And the color 3 is the nose, beard, and hand color. So instead of using white, I decided to go for this beige color just to see what it looks like. And I'll show you the yarn for Gnettle. And for Gnettle, I'm going for the same pumpkin color. So I hope this is enough yarn for both gnomes. And then for the second color, this is not very different from this color. It's just a different leftover yarn I have. It's not a lot, so once I run out of this yarn, I'll have to find something else that looks like it. And then for the color 3, I think she recommended a green. So I picked this leftover yarn, which isn't only green, it also has some blue and a little gray in it. So I may live to regret the color choice here, but for now, this is what I'm going with. And with the mystery gnomes, you never know what happens. So I just choose colors the way I like. And if I don't like the gnome once it's done, which doesn't really happen very often, I can always give the gnome away and I can re-knit it in different colors once I know what he looks like. But I just love experimenting and using different sorts of colors, not following the recommendations completely. So now, if you don't want to see what the gnome parts look like yet, because they're called mystery parts, you have to look away now. So for Gnupkin, this is one of the parts, one of the mystery parts that we could knit from the first clue, and I have to do 2 of these. I think it's quite obvious what this is going to be, but I really like the way this looks, so I've used all 3 colors. And now I'll show you the first bit of Gnettle, and for her we're only using 2 colors, and I haven't finished it yet. So this is the first mystery part of Gnettle, and you see there is a resemblance to the other part, but it is knit differently. Yeah, I stopped here because I didn't bring any stuffing. For the Gnupkin bit, I actually wove in some ends on a different project, so I could put that, use that as stuffing. Okay, not showing anything anymore. That's all I can show you for the mystery gnome knit-along. Now the next knit-along I want to show you, which is slightly bigger, is the Halloween Party Mystery Knit-along by Tallybean Knits. This is the 3rd time she's designed a mystery cowl, a mystery Halloween cowl, and it's the 3rd time I'm taking part. So I love knitting these. And for these cowls, she always releases 1 clue every day from October 1st to October 13th. And then this gives you enough time to finish it until the end of month so you can wear it for Halloween. And these usually you usually need 6 colors. So first I'll show you the colors that I'm using. So I'll try and show them with the number that I'm using them. So just in case you're interested. So this is color 1 and 2. I think this was 3 and this was 4. So you can see I'm knitting a blue cowl, no purple, no green this time. And then for colors 5 and 6, I'll try and hold them up at the same time. Okay, something got entangled with the next project, which is not a good idea. Okay, this is still hanging on the project, so it's a bit harder to hold up. So these are my 6 colors. So it's mainly blue, and then black and white, and the one orange ball because it's Halloween. So I had to have orange. And now I'm showing my knitting. And I've done all the clues until yesterday. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clues that I've already knit. I'm showing it now. So this was clue 1. And she said it was the apples that you prepare for your guests. But for me, these are blueberries. Then you get your wig out. Oh, it should be like this. So this is going to be up. So these are the wigs that you're wearing here. And then the orange, of course, are the pumpkins that you use for decoration. Then the blue is, I think my blue is green with her. So she had green apples. And here she had some guests that you did not want to have because these are moths. With some imagination, you can see some moths somewhere. And then yesterday's clue was black and white. And I think it's quite obvious what these are going to be. And I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen today because I'm very sure that we will continue knitting these things that I don't want to mention in case somebody is not looking. And yeah, and it's a lot of fun as usual. And the shape of her cowls is always the same, so they look like triangles in the front, and in the back there's less fabric. So not showing anything anymore. With the cowl, it's always nice, you get a clue every day, and they're usually not very big. So if you have like a little time, knitting time every day, I really enjoy staying on top of things with that one. I know that usually towards the end, when the rounds get longer, I don't always finish every clue on the day, but it's not too bad if you're 1 or 2 days behind. But I really enjoy having another Halloween cowl this year. Now, before we get to the next new mystery knit along, I'll quickly show my headband that I started knitting last week. It's a pattern by Bernd Kessler out of his new book Brioche, where all the patterns are knit in brioche pattern. And I'm using these 2 alpaca sock yarn colors by Hansa Farm. And I still enjoy that a lot. And last week I was still in the process of knitting the first pattern repeat. I have finished that now, and I've started on the second pattern repeat, which is going to be the last one because it's only a headband. You can only knit that many rounds for that. And so you can see now that this is sort of one of those pattern motifs. That's probably the word I'm looking for. And down here, this is only part of the motif, so it looks quite different. And you can see that this next motif is growing here. But if you look closely, it's quite obvious that it looks different to this one. So I managed to make another mistake. So this is the way the motif is supposed to look. But when I knit, and for every motif, you have 4 decreases, but you only have 2 increases because they are double increases. So you need half the number of increases. And I actually did the placement of the second increase in the wrong place. So I should have increased on this stitch instead of that one. And then it would have looked more like this motif. But when I realized I'd already knitted over the, I think 2 rounds on top of this increase until I realized what I'd done, and I was not going to go back in 2-color brioche with pattern. I decided that this was just going to be a motif that looks a bit different from the other ones, and I'll try and get the other 2 right. And yeah, I just couldn't be bothered. But maybe what is more obvious now is that the other side looks identical in the way the increases and decreases look. Normally, if you just do the increases and decreases in 2-color brioche so that that you concentrate on the one side, they will look different on the other side. And with the technique that the Sockematician put in his book, Double Knit Brioche, they sort of look the same. And I think this motif shows it quite clearly that you can see all those lines the same way they look on the other side. And then I'll be able to wear this hatband both ways out. And except for, as I told you last week, that the beginning of the decreases were wrong, but I don't mind about that either. So this will be a very unique hatband, and it'll be different from any other hatband that people knit from this book. So I don't mind about that at all. So that's that. Now to the third mystery knit along that I started last week, and that one started on the 2nd of October. So for 3 days I had a mystery knit along start, and it's coincidence that they didn't start on the same day. They all started on different days. And that's, of course, the Mystery Knit Along by Stephen West. It's his mystery shawl this year. And this year, his topic is music. So he doesn't call it Mystery Knit Along. He calls it, which is often abbreviated MKal. But instead of MKal, he says MusiKal. So Musi Knit Along. But it sounds like musical. And he's recorded several well-known musical songs and changed the lyric to describe the knitting, which is so fun, but it's really well done, and I enjoy these songs a lot. Now, for this year's knit along, we need 4 colors, and there's different possibilities. You can use gradient sets, you can use 3 colors that resemble each other and 1 different one, which is the soloist, or you can do 4 different colors. And I decided to do that. I decided to use 4 different colors, all by Opal or sock yarn, but all from different series. So this was the Africa series, which is several years ago, and I kept this yellow because we don't have often this kind of yellow with Opal sock yarn, and originally I wanted to use that for some color work, but I never got around to doing that. So this is actually my color 1. And my color 2 is out of the series Heroes, which is from this year. So this is a fairly new colorway. And the third, my color 3 is the blue. And at first I wanted to use the Heroes color blue, but then I realized if I use this color from the Rainforest series, I'd have 4 different series. So I decided to go for this blue, which is rather similar to the blue in the Little Heroes series. And my color 4 is this bright green from the series Funny Fruits. So these are my 4 colors, and this is the order in which I numbered my colors, and the number 3 is the soloist. So in the first clue, there's only this rather little color 3 in there, and color 1 and 2 are more dominant. But Stephen West says that later on, this color is going to play a bigger role, and this sort of will become the soloist. Now, that's my yarn. I'm now going to show my knitting. If you don't want to see it, you have to look away now. So you start knitting with color 1, like this, and then you add color 2, and then you combine color 1 and 3, then again color 2, then you sort of combine color 1 and 4, then it's again color 2, and it ends on color 1. So this is what you first knit. And then you sort of knit the same thing again like this. So I finished 2 of these, and then you do the third one here. So I'm in the middle of doing the third repeat of this shape. And I will have to do 3 more. So once I finish this, I have to do 3 more. And then I'm not showing anything anymore. Then I will have finished clue 1. And with Stephen West, you always get a clue a week. So if you knit nothing else, you can probably knit a big shawl within 4 weeks. But for me, with all the other projects I have on the go, I've never managed to do that. And usually, or sometimes, I finish clue 1 in 1 week. Very often, this is a smaller clue. Even though this is quite a bit of knitting, I thought if I did a motif every day, I could knit 6 of them within a week. I'll try and do that. I have already spent more than 3 days and I haven't knit 3 of them. So I don't know if I'll finish it until Thursday. Thursday will be the next clue. But usually with the second clue, I never finish that within the second week. And then third and fourth clue, I always take a lot longer than a week. But that's okay. It's still fun to knit them. And it should be really fun and very, very colourful. Now, these were all the new projects. Now I have 3 more old projects. So there's a lot of old projects that didn't get knit on last week, but that's the way it is. I added a few rows onto my skirt that I am knitting with short rows. So you can't really tell the difference probably. It just got a bit longer or a bit wider, I should say. And I'm trying to pick that up every now and then. So I should really pick up the other skirt as well. But we were traveling for the weekend. So that's why I knit on it, because it's a really good car knitting project, which the other skirt isn't because of the beads. And I added 1 or 2 rounds 2 rounds onto my Mandala Madness blanket before we traveled for the weekend. So last week I finished part 12 of the pattern. So the pattern is broken down into 18 parts because this used to be a mystery crochet along. So I finished part 12 and started with part 13, which started with this blue color. And the first round was a lot of single crochets and 2 of these round motifs. And then in the second round, I added some half double crochets and chain stitches that sort of make this lacy bit. And then I added onto the 2 round bits and added a third. So this is what's new on the blanket. This is the whole thing, which is ever more difficult to show as a whole. And I think last week I did not show the back of the blanket, so let's quickly do that today. So looking forward to adding some more rounds. The rounds are getting really long, so I'll be quite happy to add 2 or 3 rounds per week, depending on how busy I am with the other projects. And that leads me to the last project for today, which is the knit along, sock knit along that I started in September, where we are knitting toe up socks, and I added stripes into it. So this is sock number 1, knit out of those 2 colorways, and I finished the heel on the second sock. And the difference between sock 1 and 2 is that for the first sock I use 6 round stripes, and here I'm doing 3 round stripes. So very different. I use the colors in the different order for the heel, so that's a lot of fun. Looking forward to finishing this. And that was everything I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!